Good evening, Whakaalawhalahiatu, and welcome to tonight's bulletin of BCN News. Leading the news tonight, children 12 to 15 years old on the island will be getting their 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine during the next school holidays in early October. That's according to Premier Dalton Tagilangi after Cabinet's meeting on Tuesday this week. Also from that meeting, there will be no passengers, or the suspension of passengers continue for the flight on the 6th of September, and very likely that there will be no passengers from Auckland for the whole of September, depending on the situation in Auckland. But there seems to have been some confusion with the numbers of passengers allowed when passenger flights resume. Here's what Premier Dalton Tagilangi told us on Tuesday afternoon after Cabinet's meeting.
As of this morning, Cabinet has approved or endorsed recommendation for vaccination of the youth from 12 to 15 years old. Starting as soon as possible. At the moment, our officials are working with New Zealand for the consent papers, and we're most likely the rollout will be the beginning of October when the school holidays are on. Further to that, some of the major decisions that have already been made that now to end here anyway, you must be fully vaccinated.
Cabinet also decided to continue the suspension of the passenger arrivals on the next flight September 6, and very likely to suspend passenger flights for all of September, depending on the situation in New Zealand. When passengers are allowed to travel, the numbers have dropped.
The number of passengers allowed in once approval will be lessened from 50 to 26. So when that is, we're playing week by week. Depends what's happened in Auckland.
That was Premier Dalton Tagilangi on Tuesday this week, but that number has now changed from 26 to 30 to cater for children. In an email to BCN News today after Cabinet's meeting, Premier Tagilangi said 26 is still the number, but have allowed maximum to 30 to cater for children, if any. The cargo and passengers flights continue to fly in as per normal, but without incoming passengers until further notice. Meanwhile, the Premier has also issued a message to the Niuean community in New Zealand, especially those in Auckland, given the latest information from Dr. Colin Tukuitonga this week that of the more than 12,000 Niueans living in Auckland, only 20% of them are fully vaccinated.
The message is simple. Get vaccinated or you won't be coming back home. And I'd like to thank Colin and his team and all the Niuean health workers of Niueans. They're the one who's driving this program, not in Auckland, Wellington and other parts, I believe. And I just like and encourage our people that we are so lucky that we have people like Colin and those that offer that help and support for our own people to please get vaccinated. As I mentioned time and time again, they're not only protecting themselves but their family and also the little island here.
Premier Tagilangi says that the suspension of passengers from Auckland is dependent on the situation in Auckland, and these low figures of Niueans taking the vaccine is also very concerning. There are 12,096 Niueans in the eligible age group of 12 years and older who live in Auckland. Only 2,423 of them have completed both doses of the Pfizer vaccine, and just under 4,000 or 3,967 have taken their first dose. And the debacle over the shareholder minister and the Minister of Infrastructure, Honourable Crossley Tatui, being left in the dark over the decision of the CEO of Telecom to apply for the position of Director General of the Ministry of Infrastructure back in June and being offered the position by Commission in August, seems to have resolved itself. Yesterday, BCN News was informed that the CEO of Telecom, Brett Collier, had officially declined the position of Director General for the Ministry of Infrastructure. Minister Tautui was on News of the Week program on Friday last week and said that he was not consulted or at least made aware of these critical staff movements that will have an impact on the performance of Telecom Niue. The minister lamented the lack of communication between key institutions of government, which had led to this debacle. From June, when the call for applications were open, until the interviews in July and in August, he was not aware until about 2 weeks ago, when the chairperson of the Public Service Commission, Aida Talangi Hekesi, informed him that Mr. Collier will be the next Director General of Infrastructure.
As Minister of Finance or as a Cabinet Minister, I am fully aware and I'm concerned with the lack of communication, consultation and coordination across the government sectors, including the civil society, village councils. It's a grey area that we must improve on.
BCN News understands that Brett Collier was initially employed several years ago to work for Telecom Niue as project manager for the 4G system, and in 2019 he was appointed as CEO with a contract to end in 2023. Yesterday morning, BCN was informed that Mr. Collier had officially declined the offer of the Public Service Commission to be the Director General of the Ministry of Infrastructure. The University of the South Pacific has made it as one of the top 10% of the best universities in the world, according to the Times Higher Education World University Rankings for 2022. This is great news also for the 64 graduates of the USB Niue campus who are awaiting their graduation ceremony in October this year. I also had an opportunity to speak to the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Paul Ahluwalia, earlier today.
This is a very exciting time for USB. I mean, the fact that we've made this ranking, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility. It means that we have to work harder to keep, lifting our game. If we're in the 10%, we now want to make it better. Every year, we'll set some KPIs to get better. But it's more importantly for me, rankings are a validation of what external people think about what you're doing. More importantly for me, I think we will continue to serve the Pacific. That's been my mission since I came into office, and it's all about shaping Pacific futures. And I think the future for the Pacific, despite the pandemic, despite the kind of economic upheavals we've seen, I think our students should be very confident that USB is their university, and it's a university where they will get that quality education. And I think the external validation from the Times is something that every Pacific Islander can be so proud of. This is your university, this is our university, and together we're just going to forge ahead.
This was very good news for the newly reinstated Vice-Chancellor and President of the University, Professor Paul Ahluwalia. In a statement released yesterday, Professor Ahluwalia said that this is a very proud moment for the university to celebrate the official announcement of USB's inclusion and ranking in the Times Higher Education World University Rankings for 2022. He says that to be ranked in one of the most prestigious ranking systems in the world announces USB's arrival on the global stage. Meanwhile, Niue's USB campus director Sione Lolesio is also very happy at this announcement, especially this year when Niue will hold its second and largest graduation ceremony on the 22nd of October, when about 100 qualifications will be awarded to 64 graduates. It's understood the government has allocated $20,000 for this USB Niue campus graduation ceremony. The final results of the Niue Village Council elections for 2021 were released earlier this week by the Chief Electoral Officer Darren Tohovaka and the Deputy Electoral Officer Richard Siatanga. The polling booths in the villages of Tamakotonga, Liku, Hikutavake, Makefu, Tuapa and Alofi North opened from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. on Friday last week, the 27th of August. Just after 8 p.m. on Friday, the provisional results were released, and on Monday this week, the final results were released. For the village of Tamakotonga, a total votes of 52 were cast, and newcomer Sean Billy Tukutama topped the polls with 48 votes. Samson Nelisi 45, Lavea Amanaki Puheke 43, Tawhakatoa Huipunu Paola 41, and 39 votes for Hikitongia Puheke. For the village of Liku, there were 42 votes cast. There were no invalid votes. Sifa Macmillan Puletoa and Simi Tominiko both topping the list with 27 votes. Sionetasi Puletoa with 26, 24 for Christian Paumale and 23 for Newland Paumale. For the village of Hikutavake, a total of 17 votes were cast. There were no invalid votes. Felicity Puletoa led with 14 votes. Olivai Pipitolu, Alicia Talafasi and Anthony Gastohovaka all received 13 votes. Masini Holo Langalonga received 12 votes. For the village of Tuapa, a total of 56 votes were cast. Sione Poko, Sione Tama topping the polls with 48 votes. Salamarina Ikitule 42, Halafo Mokale 46, Kulupa Tama Ikihele 40, and 38 votes for Priscilla Iloilo Mokale. There were no invalid votes for the village of Tuapa. 33 votes were cast for the village of Makefu, and newcomer Ernie Judy Tovaka leading the polls with 25 votes. Etaena Poihanga 22, Marcus Puletama 21, Charles Tovaka 18, Sionita Lee Lolani 17. And for the village of Alofi North, newcomer Imani Whakausimanava Lui topped the polls for the village council seats of Aluftukela with 55 votes. Out of a total of 64 votes cast on the day, there were no invalid votes for the village of Alofi North. In second place was Margaret Siosikefu with 42, 40 votes for Rupina Morrissey, 37 for EJ Strickland, and 34 for Mokalita Heka. Congratulations to all the new village councillors in your new roles for the next 3 years. In other news, water issues continue to affect several villages around the island, with aging infrastructure and broken water pumps causing water supply issues. Here's more. Earlier this month, Avasele was having problems, and 2 weeks ago it was the village of Tamakotanga having issues with water. Last week, Hikutavake had no water, and until this morning, the village of Lakapa went without water for 2 days. The government's utilities director, Clinton Chapman, last week advised that the Hikutavake bore pump was down, and the department had organized for the rescue fire services to cart water to fill the water tanks. According to Director Chapman, they did not have any spare parts for the faulty water pumps. The spare parts had been used to replace the Tuapa and Namukulu faulty pumps, but that they were trying their best to secure pumps from overseas. However, the COVID restrictions in New Zealand had delayed that process. The owners of Swanson's supermarket and Swanson's shopping complex at Whanokula WH Grove has put the business up for sale. The business complex was officially opened 3 years ago in 2018. The sale was made known earlier in August when the listing was up on the Bailey's, New Zealand's largest commercial real estate agency website. The Minister of Finance, Crosley Tatui, says that the government has been aware for a while that WH Grove had been planning to sell. He also said that they are aware of interested buyers from Asia, but that the government has reservations about the impact such a company will have on a small community like Niue. According to the Minister of Finance, the government will have to make a decision whether to allow the sale to go ahead or for the government to get involved through the Government's Development Bank as one of the options they will have to decide. BCN News sent an email request for an interview with John Heiss of WH Grove, but have yet to receive a response. The week-long celebrations to mark the centennial anniversary of Tuasea School culminated with the unveiling of 2 commemorative plaques on Saturday. BCN News cameras were there to capture the festivities. It was the day the village of Hakupu had been planning for some time, a day of speeches, feasting and celebrations held at the Tuasea grounds. Former Member of Parliament for the village, Michael Jackson, thanked the Hakupu community in New Zealand who helped fund the 2 commemorative plaques unveiled on the day. Former students, teachers and generations of Hakupu people who attended Tuasea School donned their iconic Tuasea pink to celebrate together the momentous occasion. Tuasea School was first established in 1920, providing for the education needs of the children from the village until 1988, when the government decided that due to the declining student populations, all the village primary schools were to be centralized to Alofi. Tuasea has since become a focal point for all Hakupu community events. After the school closed, it became the community hall, the center for all village activities, family milestone events such as haircutting and ear-piercing ceremonies, and a place of gathering for sports and show days. It was even turned into the Niue's Theological College for 5 years. Here are some of the highlights of the celebrations on Saturday. Congratulations to the people of Hakupu, and a wonderful memory for all to remember those generations of students who attended Tuasea School from 1920 to 1988. But that's our bulletin news for tonight. You have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back with you with our bulletin in Wangahau on Tuesday next week. Until then, good night, nonofa.